a bit faster from your normal 100 miles an hour, and you gradually increase the speed, and it takes years and years and years to be able to drive a Formula One car at 200 miles an hour. So again, do we get more power like this? Yes, but we have less control, and we have less margin of error in terms of timing.
I'd like to thank Jorge Capestany for letting me use his videos of Halep and Federer for this comparison. Please visit his channel by clicking the card above for more videos of pros in slow motion, and of course for Jorge's excellent, clear, concise and really practical instruction videos. What you'll see here is the difference in the forehand drop technique between Halep and Federer. And I stopped the video at this moment where I believe Halep has reached a very stable position with her wrist, and at the same time her racket is basically at the same angle as it will be at contact. So her wrist is stable and the racket is correctly aligned to hit the ball. And as you can see, that's around 13/100ths of a second before contact. If you look now at Federer's forehand, you will see that his wrist is not yet in a stable position and that his racket is not yet aligned to hit the ball. So in other words, his racket is completely closed. So what you'll see now is a countdown to the moment of contact, and you can observe both forehands to see how Halep's wrist is not moving anymore and how her racket face is not changing the angle anymore throughout the stroke, whereas Federer's wrist and racket are still moving. So somewhere around this point, which is about 8/100ths of a second before contact, I see Federer's wrist finally reaching a stable position, meaning it's now fully laid back and it has stopped moving. His racket face is still completely closed and not yet aligned to hit the ball over the net. We need to play it forward for a few more frames until we reach this position, which happens only about 2/100ths of a second before contact, when Federer's racket is finally aligned correctly so that the ball would now cross the net if he hit the ball. I hope you now understand how challenging and demanding this drop technique is and how perfect your timing must be in order to pull it off. And in fact, even Roger slightly mishits the ball in this clip, which just shows you how difficult it is to execute a forehand like that and hit the ball cleanly.
And when it comes to the most exaggerated way of accelerating the racket head, and let's use jack sock as an example. So that's when the player prepares like this, when the racket head is still pointing forward, so not even like this, but sometimes like this. What do they get by that? They get even more racket head acceleration, because the racket will flip even more, it will stretch the forearm even more, and it will shoot out of the wrist or of the arm even faster. So why is jack sock, or some players, even Federer sometimes on an easy ball, he will go like this, because that's how they can accelerate the racket head even faster. So if I try to do it, I can do it. I can do like this. I can hit with a lot of power, but I'm sacrificing control. I don't feel good control. I don't know exactly what will happen with the ball. So again, for me, it's too much power. I don't need so much power. Using like a more normal forehand technique, and again, this is not classic old school forehand. This is the forehand technique dropping on the edge is what Andre Agassi was using, and he had a pretty good forehand. What most women on WTA tour are using, Halep, Sharapova, you name it. Del Potro is playing more like this. Janko Tipsarevic is playing a bit more like this, he's not dropping, and so on. So there are a lot of players still using this technique that gives them a lot of control and still enough power. And so dropping the racket on the face or going like this will give you more power but less control. So again, the difficulty for a recreational tennis player is that you don't have enough practice, you don't have enough repetition to actually learn to control this power. And the disadvantage that you have is that your racket will position in the right position and your wrist just at the last split second. So if you make one small mistake in timing of the shot, you're going to probably miss by a lot. Whereas on the other hand, when you go more like this and your wrist is already stable, you have much more margin for error in case you mistime the ball, which you will, and yet you will still have enough power for our level of play.